You know that feeling, right? You walk out of a big meeting, everyone was talking, a ton of critical decisions were supposedly made, but nobody has a clue what they're actually supposed to do next. Well, what if you could take that messy, chaotic conversation and literally compile it into a perfect, crystal clear list of actions? That's the huge idea we're digging into today.
To really get this, just picture a design meeting for a construction project. You've got the clients, the architect, ideas are flying all over the place, someone's frantically sketching. It's just pure chaos. And at the end of it all, you're left with this exact feeling. You might have some scribbled notes, maybe even a recording, but you're missing the one thing that matters, a clean list of what to actually build.
So let's be clear, the problem isn't the meeting itself. Meetings have to happen. The real problem is the giant chasm between the conversation that happens in the meeting and the actual actionable tasks that are supposed to happen after it. That's the gap where everything just falls apart.
So naturally, the first thought to fix this was super direct. What if the client says, hey, can we make the ceilings a foot taller? And you could just hit a button and show them the updated design right there on the screen. The dream was all about instant visual feedback.
And of course, that idea led straight down a very trendy path: AI image generation. Could we just use something like Midjourney or DALL-E to whip up these visuals on the fly? I mean, on paper it sounds incredible, right? Super futuristic.
But in the real world, it was a complete and total dead end. And here's why. That idea just crashes and burns in a high-stakes field like construction. These AI models, they just make stuff up. They hallucinate details. They have absolutely no concept of building codes or physics or engineering data. So you end up showing the client this beautiful picture, this visual promise that is literally impossible to build. That's not just useless, it's actively dangerous.
Okay, so if the instant picture dream is a bust, it forces you to dig a little deeper. If the problem isn't how fast we can draw, then where is the real breakdown happening in this whole process?
And it turns out the answer has way less to do with fancy graphics and a whole lot more to do with information. The true bottleneck wasn't the speed of drawing at all. It was the messy, manual, and totally error-prone way that information was flowing from the meeting to the people who had to do the work.
And this is exactly what that broken flow looks like. You start with the design meeting. Then someone's barely legible notes get translated into a vague email to, let's call him Bob the CAD guy. And that email is just full of assumptions and shorthand, which forces poor Bob to pretty much guess what was actually decided before he puts it into the official plans.
And this right here, this is the light bulb moment. The most expensive mistakes on any project, they're not happening in the fancy software or out on the job site. They're born right here, in this fuzzy translation layer, that messy space between a human conversation and a machine instruction.
This is the question that flipped the whole problem on its head. Forget about making the drawings faster. What if we could make the instructions themselves perfect? What if the output of a meeting wasn't a messy transcript, but a clean, buildable set of directives?
This leads to a really powerful new way of thinking. A meeting transcript isn't just some historical record you look back at when things go wrong. No, it's raw source code for the project. And just like any computer code, it needs to be compiled before it's actually useful.
And that's what the Transcript Directive Engine, or TDE, is all about. It's a meeting compiler. It takes the source code from that meeting transcript, and it doesn't just give you a summary. It parses it to produce two very specific things. One, a list of structured, actionable directives, and two, a list of everything that was too ambiguous to act on.
So this is the really critical part. TDE gives you two outputs. The master directives table, well, that's your green light list. Clean, clear tasks ready for execution. But just as important is the hold queue. This is where all the risky, vague stuff goes. All the I think we shoulds or maybes. Things that need clarification before anyone touches them. One side enables action, the other side actively prevents errors. So how does it work? It's basically a three-stage process. First, the engine chops up the conversation into small, manageable chunks. Second, it pulls out anything that looks like a directive or a potential hold. And then, the most important step, it applies a really strict set of governance rules to make sure every single output is clear, traceable, and safe to act on.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't this just like Otter or other AI note takers? And the answer is a big, fat no. Those tools give you a text summary. Their goal is search and memory. TDE gives you a structured, governed database built for execution.
See, other tools try to be helpful by guessing and filling in the gaps, which is exactly how those expensive mistakes happen. TDE operates on one simple, powerful rule: hold beats guess. Safety comes first, always.
All right. This is a really cool concept, technically speaking. But who cares if it doesn't actually create value, right? So let's look at the real-world cost of these messy meetings and how compiling that chaos can turn directly into cash.
Okay, check this out. For just one single mid-sized builder, the numbers are pretty staggering. We're talking an easy $60,000 a year in rework just from these translation errors. On top of that, you've got almost 11 grand in wasted admin time, people just trying to figure out what their notes mean and writing emails to get clarity.
So you add that all up, and for just one company, that's about $70,000 a year. That's pure value completely lost, just tied up in miscommunication. It's like a hidden tax that's eating away at the profit on every single project they do.
And this is exactly why the business case here is a no-brainer. Let's say a builder spends about $10,000 a year on a tool that compiles their meetings. Well, they can easily expect to save $20,000, $30,000 or even more. That's a clear 3 times return on their investment, just by stopping 1 or 2 of those big, costly mistakes.
So let's bring it all back home to this central idea. The real key here is to change how we think about meetings. The output isn't just for our memory. TDE isn't a note-taker for looking back at what happened. It's a compiler for moving forward with absolute precision and confidence.
This whole idea was born out of the construction world, but the principle behind it is totally universal. And that leaves you with a really fascinating question to chew on. What other complex, high-stakes conversations in fields like medicine or law or engineering are just sitting there, waiting for a compiler to turn all that chaos into pure clarity?